how does my new ring light look?
It looks good.
I can also do like warm light,
Ooh. Oh,
cold,
cool light.
normal light,
That's
and
cool.
dimmer light,
I
and brighter light.
have a big ass ring light over there, that,
Uh-huh.
but it's Corey's because he's a photographer. And so he has like random lighting tools just all over the house.
Well, I was sick of looking like a, I don't know, ghost or something. So
You never looked like a ghost, but if you did, it would make, I mean, it would make sense for the podcast that
it
you're
would be
doing.
great. It would be great for the podcast. Also, because I sit here and do like during work meetings. I hope none of my colleagues ever listen to this. Um, I sit and do like my skincare.
There you go.
So I have a little mirror, but I don't have any light.
Well, now you do. You have
And
all
now I do.
types of light.
I have many different kinds of light.
Well, this is the finale of Supernatural season one. This is our finale of season one of our
Woo!
podcast. We've got Elle back. I'm Audrey. This is a Sam Girl retrospective. And I can't believe we're about to finish the entire season. Like, that's crazy.
Didn't we just start this like 2 weeks ago? How
I
is that
mean,
possible?
it was 6 weeks ago. So almost like your hyperbole is almost just the truth.
I was I was trying to be ridiculous, but it ended up being close to the truth.
We really started it and just like hit the ground running and recorded 13 episodes in the span of like 5 weeks. And I have edited 10 episodes in the span of 4 weeks.
Well, we've been wanting to do it for so long.
Yeah, all that energy has been building up for years,
We've just been waiting to let it out.
literally. All right, let's get into the summary for the finale of season one. So at the end of last episode, we get a phone call from Meg, and she has dad. So the boys decide that the best thing to do next is argue with each other and disagree on basically everything they are about to do. Dean wants to go find him. Sam wants to go find the demon. Sam is like he doesn't want it to be true, but he's also like we have to think of the possibility that the dad is dead. Dean's like, no, and also we need to like stop like sacrificing ourselves for this, job. And Sam's like, that's like, why else did you come and get me from school? Like, it's a whole thing. So they decide to go to Bobby's. And I literally got so emotional when I saw Bobby's because I was just like, oh my God, thank God he's here. And I've been watching The Boys for the first time, and I'm on season three now. Like, I literally have been tearing through it.
Doesn't he play a character named Robert Singer or
Yeah,
something?
yeah. Yes. I was like, oh my God, there's a scene, and I love Giancarlo Esposito from Breaking Bad and from Better Call Saul, and he's in it too. So I was watching and I was like, oh my God, if I had known Giancarlo Esposito was in this, I would have watched it earlier. And then there's a scene where he's in the boardroom with just Bobby, and I was like, oh my God, I love both of these men. And so I got really emotional. But anyways, I forgot that Bobby like shows up in season one. Like I thought he was something they thought of later. So it was really cool for me to remember how I have like supernatural amnesia as I'm rewatching this. And so Bobby's house is just full to the brim, top to bottom with books stacked everywhere. Of course, we enter the house. Sam's already digging into artifacts and books. Dean's talking to him about the last time they saw him. Bobby had pulled a gun on John, which who can blame him? Bobby says something like, "Yeah, John has that
He
effect
has
on
a way
people."
of yeah, he has that effect on people, I think.
Because yeah, he sucks and everyone wants him to die. So they learn all this cool new stuff and um about demons because Bobby's like he knows everything. He's just the coolest person in the world. And then he kind of mentions he's like, this is weird because like I am a seasoned hunter and I still haven't even seen this much demonic like activity in my whole career, and now it's like happening constantly. And then Meg bursts in but that was part of the plan. And she gets caught in a devil's trap in the center of the house, and they perform an exorcism on her. Now, mid-exorcism, I no, I think like Dean like slaps her or something, which I did not enjoy. I was like, this makes me feel uncomfortable. I don't know. Like, I know she's a bad guy, but this feels bad because he also called her a bitch, which
I also didn't like
I do
that.
not like when men call women bitches. Like, unless you're a gay man, it doesn't hit correctly. Like, I just feel like women can say it, but a straight man cannot say that to me. I don't know. It feels weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but anyways, Bobby pulls Dean aside and is like, you can't be hitting her because she's a person. And it's like the first time these two idiots have ever thought of that. And so Sam and Dean are like, what? It's like, yeah, possession is literally that possession. That is someone else's body. And she's
There's a person in
borrowing it.
there.
Yeah, you weirdos. And so then they're like, well, shit. So they exercise Meg. It's very fraught because at one point, Bobby's like, if you exercise her, the little girl will die because, the demon is the only thing keeping her alive, which I thought was kind of weird. But it was an interesting thing they needed to draw attention to for events later. And so Meg does end up leaving, and then the body of the young girl is there. She's alive long enough to tell Dean, like, point them in the right direction, and then she dies in Bobby's house. So the boys head out towards where Meg points them. They again argue about the cult because they can't agree on anything. And Sam ultimately says, we cannot take the cult with us because that's our only leverage. We need to keep it safe. And so Dean's like, gotcha. And he makes a little side. It's just like a perfect little side eye into the camera almost, where he's like, I'm not going to do that. And so, like, he, you don't find out till later, but he does not leave the gun behind. So I can't believe that I forgot this, but they dress up as firefighters.
Uh-huh.
I have no recollection of this at all. Like, can't believe it. I was like this. I'm seeing this for the first time. I don't know. And so they're so like resourceful. They pull the fire alarm, and then Dean makes up a story about how my Yorkie's inside and like distracts the firefighter. Sam breaks into like picks a lock on a fire truck so he can get the fire like uniforms, and then they rush in, and they're just so like competent and good at what they're doing in this scene. So they are able to use the EMF wearing their firefighter uniforms to find the demons. They holy water the fuck out of them because they've blessed the water in the canisters, like
I love it. I love it
Ghostbusters.
so much.
It's so good. And then they put them in a closet and put salt around the front so they're locked in. It's great. And then dad is like on the mattress tied up and like seemingly dying or is knocked out, but he's been roughed up. And Sam stops Dean and is like, hey, we have to make sure he's not possessed. And so they throw holy water on him. And so eventually the demons who are caught, I guess, leave those bodies, and they possess other people outside and come in, and they chase the Winchesters out. And then one of the demons is like punching Sam over and over again. So Dean uses the cult to kill a demon for punching his brother, seemingly like without a weapon, just punching his brother. I'm like, we'll get into it, but I'm like, you could have just like drop kicked that guy and run away, but fine. So he uses one of the 3 bullets left that the cult has to kill this demon, and then they run away. So they go back to the hotel. I don't remember where they really are because I wasn't paying attention to like where they are when they're staying. You know what I mean? But they go back and um, I guess like they're talking to dad, and like Dean's like, oh my God, like, are you not mad at me for using the cult to save Sam's life? Because like you don't love us, so of course you wouldn't care that I saved Sam's life. And John was like, no, man, I'm so proud of you. Like, me and Sam always, we run towards death for the, purpose of whatever, but you always look out for the family. And Dean's like, kind of like, aw, but then like side eyes him a little like, wait a second, but you don't really love us that much. So why would you ever be proud of me? And so, like, once again, John being like the worst father ever, like tips him off to like what the demons are up to. Like, not even the demons can like pretend assholery like enough to be convincing as John Winchester. And so Dean pulls the Colt on Dad, and like it turns out it's not just a demon, it is the yellow-eyed demon. And so I guess he was gonna just try to take the Colt like without force. He was like trying to get Dean to just coax him into giving it to him. But then when he couldn't, he just used his demon powers to take it anyways, which I was like, why didn't you just do that to begin with? Whatever. I guess you like to play dress up.
He
Fine.
likes to have fun.
Yeah, I guess. So then he has this whole monologue with the boys, but ultimately John can overtake the demon through his like he just overpowers him a little bit in his mind, which breaks Sam free of the hold against the wall, and he grabs the Colt, and there's this whole very fraught moment where like John is begging Sam to kill him to get rid of the demon, and Dean is begging Sam not to shoot John. It's very terrible. And then before anything can really happen, the demon is like goes away. And then of course John's a fucking asshole in the Impala. Like Sam's face is half swollen from getting his ass kicked. Like Dean was tortured by the demon, so he's busted. John has been tortured, so he's busted. And Sam's just like with one eye driving the Impala at the end. And John's like, I'm really mad at you right now for not killing me. And Sam's like, can we not do this right now? Like we're all in pain. Anyways, while they're having that conversation, Sam's like, whatever, I'm taking you to the hospital. They're T-boned by an 18-wheeler driven by a demon. And Bad Moon Rising is playing, and the show ends. And that's the end of season 1 finale.
Woo!
It's a
roller
lot.
coaster.
It really is. And shockingly, like, because compared to every other Supernatural finale, it's weirdly kind of, I wouldn't want to say anticlimactic, but like it's kind of because the myth arc isn't actually resolved. And usually at the end of each season, the myth arc for that season is resolved, whether it's spilling into the next season with new stuff or not. This is just this, nothing really has been resolved at all. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
I guess except for finally meeting and talking to old Yellow Eyes.
Yeah, we meet Yellow Eyes, and I guess Meg is gone, and Meg has been an issue the whole time. But like,
Yeah.
we still don't know why he did it. We know that he did it to many children. We don't know why. We still don't know. We haven't done any. We don't know. We didn't do anything.
Right.
Like
Right.
we literally did nothing.
We
So-
started out the season needing to find Dad, and we found him.
and
And
that's it.
that's it.
Yeah.
I'm not dissing the season at all.
Mhm.
But that is what happened.
Yeah.
Other seasons have like, oh, we have to save the world from blah. Okay,
Yeah.
22 episodes happen. We saved the world from blah, but now blah. Like there's
Right.
always a we did it, but now, or we failed to do it and now. Like there's
Right.
and now it's we found Dad.
And then we all got hit by a giant truck. Like that's
Right.
that's
Right.
it.
So yeah. So
I
should we
I did think that that was really a fun way to finish the season
Oh
because
yeah.
at first it just seems like what the hell was he not paying attention where he was driving, like, but then you're like, oh, demons can kind of fuck your shit up anywhere. And so
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of a fun way to end it. I mean, not fun, obviously it's horrendous, but like it's a cool way to end it to remind you like no, things are getting much harder to
Mhm.
deal with. They're much less sustainable right now.
Demons can literally be anyone. A stranger on the highway that you're driving on can be a demon and just take you out. Like
Mhm.
it serves to amp up, but we are talking about the end before we talk about the beginning.
Oh yeah, let's jump around.
Let's jump around
Jump
because
around.
we're in the late 90s. Let's do it.
Heck yeah.
Um okay. So I do enjoy this is a true part two because we pick right up from the phone call with Meg, right?
That very moment. Mm-hmm.
Um and Sam has his angry face with his little trembling lips
Yeah.
so mad. And of course he's, gung ho to kill the thing. And Dean
Yes.
is all for running to fight another day,
Yeah.
which I think that dynamic, I think it goes back and forth in early seasons, but it settles pretty firmly like the other way around, I think,
Yeah,
in the later
I
seasons.
think it's gonna switch like episode 2 of season 2. Like after
Mhm.
we lose John, like for sure. And I think maybe you and I have talked about this, but I know I've said it on the podcast that like the true shift, maybe it was Vic, like of Dean becoming John is once John dies. And then he has that point of view of, okay, now it's the job, always the job. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I
Yeah.
think Sam kind of loses the reason to focus solely on the job after they get the yellow-eyed demon.
Yeah. Well,
Because
that was what he signed up for. And
mhm,
then, and Dad's gone. I mean, that's the future, but
yeah.
that was the end of the mission for him.
Hmm.
So, um, I do, we're going to talk, I think, a lot about Dean and how his evolving understanding of the cult of John
Yeah.
Winchester. Um, because running to fight another day is something John would not do.
No, he's
Okay.
ready to go. He even says it like, you
You and
know,
Dad
mhm.
ready to, yeah.
Y'all
Uh,
are always willing to die, and I'm the one who's gonna have to bury you.
I love that line and I love that scene because it's
Hmm.
so emotional. It's so fraught. Um,
He calls
but
Sam and Dad selfish. Like he's like, that's
yes.
selfish of y'all.
So yeah, he says that. He acknowledges that Sam is willing to sacrifice himself to kill this thing, and then immediately calls Sam selfish, which is just, of course, just like a very, forgive me, Dean thing to do, frankly.
It really is.
Um, it's a very Dean thing to do. That Sam doesn't care about anything but revenge. And
Which,
this is Dean, Dad can do no wrong Winchester here. So
right.
like he is questioning, like seriously questioning whether or not Dad really can do no wrong, I guess. Like
He's like, I'm sick of your shit. I'm sick of both your shit. Like, I don't want to
yeah,
be alone. Like, what I've always wanted. And I think maybe like part of him really hawking the like, you need to get over your problems with dad, Sam,
mhm,
because his whole goal like this whole time is to try to get them back together. And so he
yeah,
wants them to get along. But once they're back together and two of the people he loves the most keep trying to die in order to finish this job, he's like, okay, I wanted us back together, but not like this. And
yeah,
so
screw the job.
he's just like, I'm sick of your shit, guys. Like,
Yes.
yeah.
Well, and Sam's the one who he finally brings up to Dean, you brought me back into this
Yes.
specifically for this purpose, to find Dad and kill this demon.
Hmm.
And then now after Dean has spent at least the last two episodes trying to say, you know what, screw the demon, who cares? Let's get Dad and let's get out of here. I feel like Sam has kind of a right to be angry about that. Like now
Oh,
that Dean thinks it's
100%.
not important, they have to
And
drop it. But
that's
when
how it always
Sam
is.
wanted,
Yeah.
yeah, and when Sam wanted to prioritize school, it it school wasn't important. Like it,
Yeah. At the whim of whatever it is that Dean feels at that time, that's what we have to
yes,
go with.
yeah, yeah. And so, and then they have the conversation where he calls Sam selfish,
Hmm.
and I'm just I'm like, okay, but that is a symptom, I guess, an indicator that Dean is breaking out of his sort of John worship,
Yeah.
which I like.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it doesn't last. I don't mean he doesn't have time for it to settle in before tragedy. And then it's like,
Yeah,
you
of
know what I
course.
mean? But
Well, then,
it's a good moment.
yeah,
I just keep pointing to what's coming
yeah,
so
it's,
much.
I mean, well, it's easy to sort of deify someone who's not there,
Yes. And then
showing you all the ways in which they were not perfect.
ugh, yeah, stop.
Yeah. So also, this is such a small thing, but I can't believe Dean is so mad about Sam figuring out how to turn the trunk into basically a lockbox against demons. Like, I understand he doesn't want Sam to draw on the car, but also I would think that was cool as shit.
He's so funny. I was like, it's such a brilliant thing to do. So after Sam, he's just poring over these books, and then they flash away from Bobby's, and they're on the side of the road, and he's still got a book out on top of the Impala, like continuing to read. And which is such a Sam thing to do. And like Dean's polishing guns, which is like a Dean thing to do. And then
Mhm.
he goes over and he draws it like with chalk or something on top of the Impala. And what I think is funny about that is because, Dean's like, what are you doing to my car? And it's like, honey, like you fight bat like demons, like this is a good thing. But
Right?
what they do end up doing is drawing a devil's trap on the inside of the roof of the trunk.
Yeah.
And I think that's like funny. I would love to, somebody should write a tiny little ficlet about like the conversation of the compromise of where to put the sigil so that Dean's like, but it looks ugly and I like how pretty my car is. And Sam's like, it's really important to have this on there. And he's like, okay, well, let's try to put it somewhere else.
Let's put it on the inside,
Like, can
like
we
in the
just get
four
like,
corners.
yeah, like let's just paint it on the inside. And so that's their compromise.
I just love that.
Me
I
too.
feel like he should be stoked they have like another tool in their arsenal.
Yeah, and it's easy to do. And
And it's so easy. And they
there's no
should be
spell
doing it
work.
everywhere. Like
They
they
need
should
to
be doing
draw
it
it
everywhere.
all over themselves. Like,
Right?
so
More
stupid that they
tattoos.
don't.
More tattoos.
Yes.
Anyway, so obviously he gives in a little bit too quickly to Sam insisting they leave the gun behind. And if you've been watching the season up until now, even if you're brand new to Supernatural, you know that that means Dean did not, in fact, leave that gun behind.
Yeah. Especially because they're arguing so much in this episode. Like, they do not agree on anything. Like,
Yeah.
literally anything. And I know, like, it's a panic response. Like, they're both just like, like, at each other. But I wrote so many notes because every single time they speak, they're on opposite ends of the thought process
Yeah.
every time.
Which I
Um,
think I shouldn't speak for the writers, but to me it feels intentional because of a moment that happens later in the episode, which we'll get to. But
oh
when
yeah.
when
And
Sam has to make a decision.
it's so terrible.
I know. And it happens twice, but it's so much more powerful, I think, because of exactly what you're saying about how they are opposed during this entire episode.
Yeah. Let's talk about Meg and the possession because I think that's the first choice you're talking about with Sam having to make like in the moment.
So, yeah, okay. So,
Like, should I continue or not? Because Bobby says one thing, Dean says another.
I am a little bit sort of annoyed about Bobby. I love Bobby, okay? Don't get me wrong.
Okay.
But so Bobby, they need help. So they go to Bobby.
Hmm.
And this is such a great addition. I know we're going to talk about Meg, but just very briefly, he's such a great addition to the show because we can explore the world of hunters through him in a way that we can't do with Sam and Dean because of the way they were raised
Yes.
as more or less sheltered from the rest of the hunting world. A couple of friends here and there that they know, but really no one else. Like
Yeah.
they don't even know about demons for crying out loud. Like they have been
Yeah.
really sheltered. So through Bobby, we can get this kind of stuff. But then, so Bobby, as you said, lets them know, hey, by the way, she really is a girl. Like
Right.
it really is a girl in there. There's an innocent girl in there.
Hmm.
And so they're like, okay, well, he you just basically watched us try to exorcise her while we're trying to get information out of her. And now you've stopped us saying, if you finish this exorcism, the girl will die. I'm like, you just watched this whole thing happen. You know what the plan is. You didn't mention this sooner. But also, what do you think they're gonna be able to do about it. They're not going to leave the demon there and just let her be trapped just so the demon can keep her body alive. Like, yeah, I think Bobby's doing narrative work there that
Yes,
isn't really in keeping with.
I was about to say that because I think that they had to set up so much exposition surrounding demons, and Bobby does a great job of delivering it. But there was a lot of writing issues that I had with this episode that did stuff that I was like, but why is it like that? Like, for instance, that for one thing, like Dean's like, well, we need to put her out of her misery then, like give her body back. Like if she's alive because she's being animated by an evil being, like I'm sure she wouldn't want to continue living like that. And like eventually they're in the middle of the exorcism and Sam is doing the exorcism and Dean's like, finish it. And Bobby's like, I don't know. And Sam sides with Dean. And we're glad that he does because she was like,
Yeah.
thank you. But then later, there's another situation, like what I was saying about Dean using the cult on just a random ass demon who
Yeah.
was just beating Sam up, which like Dean could have literally attacked him with his bare hands. The demon, they've fought demons multiple times with their bare hands this season. They didn't have to use one of the bullets, but later Sam will say, you didn't have any choice. You had to. What are
Yeah.
you talking about?
So
Yes, he did. It's not like he had a knife to Sam's throat. He didn't have a gun to Sam's head. He wasn't about to tear Sam in half. He was just punching Sam. And
I
so I just hate when there are writing issues like that where the plot hinges on something that they tell us is true, but don't prove it's true by
but don't
showing that it's
right.
true.
Right. They tell us, but they
Like
don't show
make it
us.
make sense. It didn't make sense to me.
I was able to kind of write that off in my head as Dean had already tried to go after this demon and it threw him into the windshield of a car. And so he was like, okay, well, I need to just kill it with a gun. Because Sam really is, demons can be super strong and Sam is not getting back up. Like he's getting macked. I agree with you, but this is
Yeah.
how I
It
can
just
kind of
didn't
like
work for
write it.
me.
But I will say that um, you are like edging into a thing that I want to bring up, which is that the narrative's tendency to make Dean right about things, even when the evidence isn't there to support
Yes.
his conclusion.
Yes.
Like, so I think it's a little bit later. I have notes about this. Um, so Sam says that dad would be pissed if we brought the gun or used any of the bullets to the situation. And Sam is right.
Yeah.
Sam is right. But the narrative, at least at first, is like making Dean right because we get this sort of false confession that I'm proud of you, son, blah 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 blah. We know that that's not John. Actually,
Right.
I feel like they did a really good job of that because Dean is so willing to accept that praise because he needs it so much from dad that it takes him a few minutes. It takes John actually saying, "Give me the cult,"
Yeah. It takes a few exchanges. Like he sits
before
there.
he's like,
Mm-hmm.
"Wait a minute, dad would
So
be pissed."
sad. It really hurts my feelings for him.
It hurts my feelings too. I hate that. But
Mm-hmm.
then I oh, and then also, Sam is like, Dad could be possessed. Dean says, "Are you nuts? Like, come on, Dean, you know that it's possible." And then they do the holy water and he's not possessed. Okay, great. And then later, it turns out that he is possessed. Sam was right to be concerned.
Right.
And Dean blows it off. And then, at least in the immediate, the narrative supports Dean's conclusion, even though there's
Yeah.
literally no evidence to support it. And then the same thing with like John saying, I'm proud of you. no, you had to, blah, 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 blah. In the immediate, Sam has to be wrong and Dean gets to be right, even though that's so totally out
Yeah.
of character for John. I'm glad that the narrative turns both of those things around.
Yeah. I do too. I'm glad.
But that doesn't continue throughout the rest of the series,
Well,
unfortunately.
I mean, all of season 4 is essentially like that. Like Dean
Yeah.
gets lucky, I say quote unquote lucky in the end of season 4 that he was right all along, but all evidence pointed to the contrary with the demon blood, like
Yeah.
until the very end. And we'll get into that a long time from now. But like I get it. I get what you're saying. I think some of the writing stuff with the yellow-eyed demon really pissed me off was I liked the idea that they saved dad and he was busted up and then he was possessed. I think it's weird to say that he was possessed the whole time and I'm just a special demon that holy water doesn't mess with. Because I'm like, is that ever a thing the rest of the series where there's a demon that holy
No,
water are immune to?
and it's not ever even mentioned.
It's
It's not
stupid.
hinted at. Like a lot of things they do telegraph. Like you were saying, they introduce the concept that an innocent person is inside a person that's being possessed by a demon with Meg.
Right.
Then they make that very clear so that then when it comes to John, it's a problem and it's an issue they seriously have to deal with because they killed the demon, they killed dad.
Right.
So they're good at that sometimes. And then sometimes they're just like, yeah, oh, holy water, well, it doesn't work on me. Like,
Yeah,
okay,
well, they
okay,
did
cool.
that like so many times in this episode. Like, I thought the
Yeah.
reveal that he had been possessed, that John had been possessed the whole time was stupid. I thought it would have been so much better if he had been possessed at any time after that, once they're with him, and just he had just started, he would just maybe was like observing them. That would have been creepy. But to say, like, oh, well, holy water just doesn't work on me is so random and they never explain it. And then he says Meg and the guy who got shot with a
And the
Colt were
guy,
his
yeah.
children. And I'm like, why does this demon have to have children? Also, do demons have babies? What are you talking about? Like, this is so unnecessary. Like, no,
I
no,
don't think that ever comes back.
no,
Like,
it doesn't. And that's why I don't like stuff like this, where I'm like, you guys have like a good outline. What happens in this episode is really well written in terms of dialogue and exposition, and like it's acted really well. But then you throw in lines like that, where it's like, he doesn't need to have children. He can just be a demon who has a plan for all of these special children. And he has demons who are like underlings who are loyal
yeah.
to him. And he like I don't understand why they really did
It
throw some stuff in there like that that really
it didn't
annoyed
like
me.
he also I could understand trying to make a connection like that if he needed a reason to go after the Winchesters. But he
Right.
doesn't need a reason. He has a reason. Sam is his reason. And getting
Right.
the cult away from the Winchesters is his reason.
He doesn't also
Like
need to have
have
babies
he
and
doesn't
have
need revenge for
like
killing his
personal
family.
beef. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
so unnecessary. It's
it's
just
so
a weird
unnecessary.
thing also to throw in at the end. Like we've had a whole season build up to this, and then also, by the way, I'm mad at you for killing these people. And it's like, what? Okay.
And like Meg never makes any reference like, "Oh, I heard you met my daddy way back in the day."
Oh,
Like no. I mean, that could have been really nice and creepy, but she never says that because it feels like something they just threw in
they
here
just
in
threw
the
in.
finale just to add flavor. I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't know.
I did want to point out that when we go to Bobby's, it's like very clearly a junkyard, and there's a Rottweiler chained up in the front yard, sitting on the hood of like an old truck. And I was like, I don't like that, but I also feel it's just like a visual exposition thing where we like kind of understand the kind of place this is, that Bobby's the kind of person who would have a Rottweiler, but I do not think that he has a dog the rest of the series, does he?
Well, we hear Rumsfeld, which is the
Is that
dog's name.
is that his name? Okay.
That's
Maybe
his
they
name.
do.
No, we hear Rumsfeld get disappeared.
Does he get killed
I think believe so, like off
in this
screen.
episode?
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Because the dog like barks, like yelps, and Bobby's like, Rumsfeld. Oh, I think we're in trouble, boys, or something like that. And Rumsfeld is gone. Gone,
Oh
gone.
now, I did not catch that. That makes me really sad. Well, no wonder he doesn't
I
have a dog after.
Yeah, I don't remember him having a dog after that. I
That's
could be
so
wrong,
sad.
but I did note that.
I'm certain he does not have a dog. That's why I was like, what is this? A dog? Random. And then I just thought it was like a weird choice that they were like, well, we can't afford this dog. So they like never brought it back. But I guess he
The
died.
dog was too expensive.
He was
I mean,
a
that could still be the
A-list
reason.
actor.
We brought this really expensive dog in for this one scene, but we cannot afford this dog going forward, so we better off screen.
I can't believe I missed that. I guess I blocked it out. I don't like it when
I
animals
don't
get hurt.
either. I don't either. I
Really.
will say that JDM does a very good yellow-eyed demon.
Yeah, he's really hot.
Like, and he's like, he's what that line he says, I forgot I did
He's good at it. I
every freaking time.
He's good at
Every
it.
time.
Well,
Oh my
I
God.
also like the Yellow Eye Demon will be a different actor eventually.
Yeah.
And John, like, I feel like Jeffrey Dean Morgan like delivers it like that actor. And
Yeah.
it's really interesting because I'm like, did they know who they were going to cast later? I'm sure they didn't at this point. But
Or maybe that guy like studied Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
maybe I just know I also have seen that other actor in other things, and he's kind of like that all the time.
Oh, interesting.
So I was just like, that is so, it was really interesting. It was very cool because it felt very consistent with what I know is coming. And it was just I liked
Yeah, you could like
that.
see you could see that character inhabiting like this body. It
That was
was
hot.
it was cool. It was very cool. And of course Sam sass mouthing old yellow eyes. Like he gets so mad sometimes that he just does not care how powerful you are.
Mm-mm.
He's gonna be a smartass to you.
Yeah.
He's gonna sass you and he does not care. Um, but yeah, okay, so then we get like so this is another element of like so the demon could have taken the gun at any time.
hmm
But because they need drama in their season finale,
hmm
right? They kind of lean a little bit on that the bad guy likes drama and likes to torture and doesn't just skip to the easiest plan. It's kind of like monologuing,
Yeah.
but with action, I guess. So he starts his little demon therapy um when he's talking to Dean, I think, when he says, oh, Dean says something funny. And he's like, oh, that's funny, but that's your MO, isn't it? Mask all that nasty pain. And I'm like, okay, all
Yes.
right, got it. So we're getting therapy from a demon. Like, why does the demon even care?
He likes to, I think he knows like I mean, it's the reason I wanted to use John throughout is because the demons like to torture the
Yeah,
Winchesters.
yeah,
And he says, so he wants to hurt Dean with the like the most. And he knows that what hurts him the most is his dad. Like he loves his
yeah.
dad the most. And so he's got to say like, oh, well, I'm inside his head. I can tell you the truth. Like
Right,
Sam
right.
is his favorite and they fight, but that just shows he has always loved Sam more than you. And he's
Yeah,
shown more concern for Sam than he's ever shown for you. And through that, it reveals Dean's fears.
yeah.
And, you wonder, is he telling the truth of what he sees in John's head, or is he just able to know
He's
what will hurt Dean the most?
right,
Or is it
right.
both?
Or both. It could be both. Like, I
hmm
mean, I get Sam and Dean trying to get the demon off of his game, like make him maybe get so mad that he messes up or something like that. But he has got the upper hand, so he doesn't need to do this. He just wants to do it
Yeah.
because he's mad or whatever.
Yeah.
But the boys don't have the leverage. He is the leverage.
Well, and he
So
also reveals
so
that Sam has been shopping for engagement rings.
yes, I didn't write that down, but I
I
did hear
forgot
it.
that that's where they reveal it, but
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is how we find that out.
Yeah. Oh man. And I thought maybe that Yellow Eyes was trying to, because he mentioned Sam's psychic powers. He says, go ahead, pick it up and shoot me.
Mm.
when Sam is like against the wall and can't do anything.
Hmm.
And I forget if Sam actually kind of tries or not, but I thought maybe all of this like torturing Dean, saying these things about John and Dean, like maybe he was trying to goad Sam into using his psychic powers. And then when he like starts torturing Dean, like that feels like it would have been a very satisfying, like he is sort of waking up Sam's powers
Yeah.
by using his family. And that would also give a lot of like a satisfying point to torturing rather than being tortured for like I don't I'm fine with demons just liking to hurt people. That's kind of their thing. But I prefer it if there's like a calculated reason for it,
Right. It's
you know.
strategy. Yeah.
But that isn't what happened.
Mm-mm.
John wakes up because Dean is getting tortured. And that is what gives Sam the opening.
Yes.
And then we have to watch Sam make this decision.
Yes. And again, he sides with Dean. And I think that's what the crux of this episode is that they're not at each other's throats. Like they're not mad at each other, but
They're
they're
just in opposition the whole
bickering.
time.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
bickering the whole time. They're in opposition. Perfect word. They're in opposition the entire time. And both of the worst moments of the episodes for the boys, the most fraught, intense moments, the boys align every time.
Yes. Yes. Well, and a little mini version of this also happens like a few minutes before this because um Dean has come when Dean comes to the conclusion that this is not dad, that this is a demon, Sam walks in not having seen any of this.
Yeah.
And and Dean is like I don't, is he holding the gun on John
Yes.
at that point? And
Mm-hmm.
Sam has to be like,
What are
okay,
you
very
doing?
quickly, I have to figure out what's going on here
Yeah.
and who's in the right. And he chooses Dean there as well.
Mm-hmm.
And
And he's like,
like,
no, no, no. It was like a very interesting. I really like the way the boys delivered that scene because like
yes,
the camera had to follow Jared's face. He had to have this like dawning expression as he moved closer to Dean. You could see like with each step, he became more and more sure that
yeah,
Dean, like he knew what was going on. It was just really interesting. I really
it
liked
was.
that.
Jared does have this way of going through a like 12 different
A
emotions
face
in like
journey.
3 seconds. Yeah,
Yeah.
as whatever character he's playing realizes something or something. Which
Yeah.
I really enjoy and here was very effective. But yeah,
Hmm.
so so I guess that's like 3 times in this episode where Sam has to make a choice and he sides with Dean.
Yeah. He aligns with him every time. And I
Yeah.
think like to me, there's no other way to go with Meg. Like
Yeah.
whether that poor girl was going to die without Meg or not, the fact
I
is
agree.
the damage is already done, right? We have
Yeah.
to free her of this
Which
present.
is why Bobby's part in that scene just like kind of annoyed me because later on, I don't think once we get to know Bobby's character more and it's not important to the narrative that we learned this information,
Yeah.
Bobby never would have said something like that. He would have been like, you can't
Yeah.
let her stay like that.
Well, because also the little girl isn't alive because of Meg. She's suffering because of Meg. Like
Yes.
she has you have to like let her go, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
She's just being like thrown around like a rag doll
Yeah. Yeah.
otherwise.
I was just gonna say, and we'll find out later that being possessed by a demon is like one of the worst things that can happen to you. So
It's so terrible. Well, and it's so interesting because like she said she was awake for some of it. And so I know that there are other examples of possession. It might be more with like angel possession that people don't always remember. But I do think there's times when they don't remember with the demon. I think if a demon wants you to,
yeah.
it can like let you in, which is really dark because
Yes.
they like the terror of like, what the hell is happening?
Yeah. And I think we will find that out.
Yeah, soon.
So then we so we watch Sam have to make this terrible decision where John is begging him to shoot him in the heart and Dean is begging him to not. And
It's
of
awful.
course, Sam is going to side with Dean once again. And
Yes.
you can't blame him like at all. It's an impossible decision.
A child cannot shoot their father. Like
Yeah,
it's impossible. It's an
yeah.
impossible scenario.
And then,
And his dad is already disappointed in him all the time anyway. So what's one more
yeah,
thing? You know what I mean? Like
yeah, like he's gonna yell at me regardless, so whatever. But he does shoot his dad in the leg,
he's so smart.
but that doesn't kill the demon.
No, it just like wounds the demon. But like it's a smart thing to do, I think, because I think it's not something that the yellow-eyed demon was expecting.
Yes,
And
correct.
you know what I mean? And so it allowed John a little bit more time to like overpower him.
Yeah.
If we had more
And
bullets, it
just
might
shoot
be
John in a lot of different places that aren't fatal.
well, I just mean it. Maybe don't do that. But I just
No,
meant
I'm
like,
okay with it.
I mean, yeah, you're right. He said. But like, I just meant if we had more bullets, then it wouldn't even be an issue. Like you could shoot
Right.
all the demons and just wound them or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm sure whoever's like being possessed would be like, that hurt, but thanks. You
But
know,
thank
like
you. I'm in. Thank you.
yeah.
But why do we think that Yellow Eyes left John's body? Because he doesn't have to.
I feel like I think the reason, because John was saying, I've got him. And I feel like
Hmm.
he wasn't saying just, I've overpowered him and I'm in control. I think there was a part of John's will that was holding him in. He
Mm,
was like, you have to shoot me now and end this now, right now, because the implication to me was that the demon's going to leave and they're going to have to track him down again and they could
right.
end
Again.
this tonight. And you know how tempting that is for Sam. Sam wanted to not go find dad at the beginning of this episode. He wanted to let the demons come to them. Like that's the reason
Hmm.
Dean was like packing up. And Sam was like, "Where are we going?" And Dean was like, "We got to get out of here. They're going to come for us." And he's like, "Good. I want to face them. I'm ready
Hmm.
to face them." And so like this is really hard for him to let go, but like that's why the last line of this episode is what it is that at the end of the day, whether or not he wants to finish this and dad
Yeah.
wants him to finish this, it's not more important than everything.
No, sir, he says.
No,
Yeah.
sir, not before everything. He sees Dean in the little, like at the end,
In
he's
the
in the
in the rearview
car
mirror. Yeah.
and John's being a little dick about, I can't believe that you didn't kill me. What a bad son, or whatever the fuck he says. This is supposed to become before everything, before me, before everything. And Sam sees Dean in the rearview mirror, just like perfectly framed in his bloody little face.
Basically dying
And he goes,
in
no,
the back
sir,
seat.
not before
Not
everything.
before
Not
everything.
before Dean. He loves Dean, not before my
Not
family.
before my family.
And then, of
Not
course, they
before
get
Dean.
plowed
Yeah.
into by the big truck. But
Yeah,
like,
just when we settle into Sam standing up for himself again,
yeah,
and this
he's
time
the,
including Dean in on it this time
yeah.
with the little nod in the mirror, and for once saying no, sir, instead of yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
And Dean, I feel like I don't know if it's true or if I just imagined it, but I feel like Dean is like with him on this.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's sort of coming full circle on he's been sort of denying his like John worship the whole episode, and I feel like he's with Sam when Sam says not before everything. And because he's been arguing this whole episode and last episode, do not go running into that burning house. Do not go running toward death or whatever. Um,
Yeah, it's suicide. I don't care. Like
I don't care. Yeah,
he's not there anymore.
Dean is being faced with the fact that he could very well lose Sam. And now Sam sees in the rearview mirror he could very well lose Dean. And they are like together
Yeah.
in this, you know what, Dad? No. No. We're standing up to you.
No
And
longer. Yeah.
then no, sir, he says. No, sir. We get
Well, and
so
is
many yes,
this
sirs. And now we get a no, sir. And then we get sideswiped by a semi truck.
no, T-boned.
T-boned, T-boned.
I wish we
I
were sideswiped. We were
I would say
T-boned.
I was talking about us, but you are
Oh,
right. They get T-boned
I felt T-boned.
by a semi truck with a
Yeah.
demon at the wheel.
I jumped so hard, even though I knew it was coming. Is what I wrote because I
I forgot. I forgot it was coming. So I truly was settled into like, yeah, Sam, you tell him. Like, I think I probably just spiked the audio there, but I was so I completely forgot how the season ended.
I never forget because I know that we end up in the hospital at the beginning of the next season and how awful it is.
Yeah.
And I also remember watching the finale and apparently not paying much attention because I totally forgot they were firefighters in this episode. But like at the end, I was like tapping Corey on the shoulder. I was like, hey, 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 you got to pay attention to the end because I wanted him to be surprised by the 18 wheeler.
Because he hasn't seen it, right? This is his first time through.
Well, he's not watching it with me all the time because he's working, but we watched the first three seasons together. We got into the fourth,
Mm.
like in the last 2 years or so, maybe it was like 2021, 22. We started like rewatching it. But my thing is like if I love it and Corey like gets distracted, he has like ADD, loves to draw, and he's like always busy on his iPad because he's a tattoo artist. Like if he can't pay attention, I'm like, okay, let's just not watch it anymore. And so we kind of piddled off because
Yeah.
I wanted him to watch like watch, and it's just such a long show, like it's almost impossible.
Yeah.
And so I just we stopped watching. And so I don't understand why everything feels so new to me this time through, but I'm glad it's really been
You
super fun.
really like just committed to we're going to do a podcast and this is going to be a rewatch and I want all of my reactions to be like honest.
Yeah,
And I think you just like brain wiped yourself.
it must have. And I like borrowed the Men in Black like flashy thingy and just like Eternal Sunshine Supernatural out of my brain so I could watch it for the first time, it seems at some points.
My trick is just that I forget everything. So every time I watch something, it's like I'm watching it brand new. But I do want to talk about the final shot.
Let's do it.
Okay. We've got the music.
Hmm.
We have it's saturated black.
Hmm.
Like it's lit, the scene is lit only by headlights. Every Winchester is out for the count. And we get like these I, I was gonna say glorious, but I guess they're terrible. Um, like
Depends.
close-ups. It depends on what you're looking for, I guess. We get these like really sort almost like beautiful close-ups of the state of each of them.
Hmm.
Because and to me that's so hard hitting because they are not often vulnerable. And now they're like very physically vulnerable.
Yeah, they're all knocked out. They're all bloody.
They are not okay, and there's a demon in a semi truck. Like,
Cut
is
to
it a semi
black.
truck? And it just cuts to black. We have no idea what's going to happen next. But the colors that they choose to work in this scene are so dark and saturated that when they use just headlights as the lighting, which I know is
Hmm.
not real life how they lit the scene, but um it's so beautiful and lonely
Oh
and
yeah.
vulnerable. There is no one around. You get the idea that this highway is not well traveled. They are truly alone and helpless. And now we have to wait an entire summer
Yeah.
to see what will happen next.
Oh my gosh. Watching that in real time must have been a real trip.
I'm so glad I didn't have to do that.
I know. I laughed when Jess was telling us in our group chat. She's on a Discord. Shout out to her just Discord because they listen to the podcast. And that we were talking about how we go on Tumblr now and there's like new Sam girls popping up that have started the show recently or have started it in the later years of the show. And we're like passing on like some of the discussions that we used to have back 10 years ago, and that Jess was saying that on her Discord they were feeling specifically like taunted because they had started watching the show long before we did. And so we were the baby Sam
We're the
girls
baby
to
Sam
them.
girls to them.
And we love y'all. Y'all are, oh my God. I would love to talk to someone who had, watched it week to week and what that must have felt like, because that ending is absolutely like
Oh my gosh.
deranged. It's intense to sit and be like, wait, what the like we were dealing with demons, now we were in a car accident.
Yeah. Oh, right. That's the other thing. Like, yes, okay. It's a really good illustration of how demons at this point are just like a real and present danger because they can be anywhere, be anyone, can get to you no matter where you are. But also something as mundane as a car accident can render you completely helpless.
Yes, it can also be like
Like,
part of what they use as a weapon.
yeah, like just normal, everyday, non-supernatural things that can happen to normal people. Those things can happen too, and you just can't plan for that. And it's so effective at just like making your heart drop into your ass and you're just like and luckily since I was watching it on Netflix or whatever on DVDs, I got to just say next. It was probably, honestly, it was probably 3:30 in the morning, and I was like, no, I'm not quitting there. Forget that. I definitely watched the next episode no matter how late at night it was.
I cannot remember if I watched it, if I streamed it. I guess I must have streamed it. But I feel like I borrowed someone's DVDs, but that might have been when I was watching Lost. I borrowed someone's DVDs. But yeah, I no one would stop there if they
No,
didn't have to.
no.
Definitely one of my favorite things that happened was when Bobby was telling them like, "Hey, be careful slapping Meg because, she's an actual person." And they were like, "What?" And Bobby goes, "Yeah, she's a real girl." And he says, "Can't you tell?" And I was laughing so hard
How
because
how
I was like, right. Why wouldn't they be able to tell she's like a girl? It's just
I
so.
mean, you can just see that she's a
I'm with you, Bobby. What the fuck is
person.
wrong with these two guys? Like, what?
Can't you tell she's a... But the way he said that was kind of like I was trying to figure out if they started this part of the mythology out trying to say things like demons could just manifest without possessing someone. Because otherwise, this would just be normal lore. Like he wouldn't say, "Can't you tell?" He would say, "Yeah, demons are never just demons. They're always people."
Yeah, but
You know what I
they've
mean?
already met a demon on Phantom Traveler.
But they didn't know that.
They exorcised him.
Yeah, you're right. A
So
person
like
came out.
I was
That's
like, a
weird.
person did not come out.
That's a weird way to say that. They
A demon
exorcised a
came
demon
out.
and a person was
Person
left.
was left. Yeah. So that's why I just was like, what's
So
wrong with y'all? Idiots.
so Idjit. So yeah, I mean, you're totally right. This is something that I guess they just never thought about it
I also think this
before.
is an episode that does not trust the audience not to be kind of stupid. Do you know what I mean?
No, I know exactly what you mean. I mean, we're gonna have a lot more of those episodes. I also have to tell myself that this is 2005.
Yeah.
Um, and this is week to week television.
And they're still building their mythology.
And
It's gonna be a little messy.
and they are writing TV for people who for the most part can't just like weren't we having to catch this stuff when it aired back then too?
There
Like
might have been DVR. I think there was
there
DVR,
was
but like,
DVR, but like there wasn't
yeah.
like on demand streaming, like
No,
just go to your...
absolutely not. No.
So like they had to be like, okay, the people who are watching this have watched a million things between last week and this week, and they need to be reminded of what these facts are.
Well,
Let's slip
maybe
them
they
into
missed
the
Phantom
narrative here.
Traveler. Yeah. And
Or
maybe
maybe,
they,
or maybe they missed Phantom Traveler. Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
And this is the finale, so it's kind of a big deal that all of these facts are present in the viewer's mind. Like I can give it a little bit of grace because of that, but as a person who lives in 2024 and streams absolutely everything and doesn't
Yeah.
wait week to week for anything,
And is doing a podcast on the show.
right?
It's
And
really
has
not
rewatched it
fair
multiple times.
how scrutinous we are being when
We are.
really it's like no one has ever expected it to get this much attention. When they wrote this, when they did this, could they have imagined all of the kinds of like analysis that would that would
Right.
happen to it?
They're like, nobody's gonna look that deep into it. Just do it. We have a deadline. And we're like here, what, 19 years later
And I'm
going,
like, wait
and
20
why
years,
did they do it
bitch.
this way? Why did they do it this way? This doesn't make sense. And they're just like, oh my God, you guys,
Like, shut up. I'm
chill
doing the
out.
boys now. God.
Chill out.
And I don't
Yeah.
ever want it to sound like I'm bitching about the show when I talk about the writing. Like sometimes I will be bitching, but not
Yeah.
anytime soon. And
No.
I just think it's interesting to discuss like just critically because it's writing is good, it's fun, and we like to write ourselves. And I'm an English teacher. Like I like to discuss stories. That's why I became an English teacher. So I'm not trying to
Yeah.
be a bitch about it. I literally I just think it's interesting to point out some of the things the writers do or don't do, and then like the consistencies and inconsistencies.
Yeah. Similarly, I'm trained to look for that stuff as a
Yeah.
writer. So I have
Yeah.
to look for it as part of, being able to write something decent. One thing I just found in my notes that we did not talk about,
Oh, let's do it.
which I think is a big deal. So they have this big conversation about killing people while they're killing demons. Like this is after Dean has killed the guy and
I
he's
meant to
feeling
come
some
back to
sort of
this.
way, yeah,
Yes. I'm
about
so
killing
glad you're
that
talking
guy.
about this.
It turns into like this deep revelation from Dean about how scared he is of the things he's willing to do to save Dad and to save Sam.
Yes.
And that is, it's so vulnerable of him.
It's very self-aware.
And it's so self-aware of him to
Yeah.
realize this. Now that he has killed a demon, knowing full well that that demon used to just be a guy who was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Now
Yep.
he's like, oh, oh, shit. I
Yeah.
killed a person. A person was in there.
Yep.
Like with Meg, I don't think it hit as hard because that
They knew she
they,
was already going to be
she
dead.
was already going to be dead, and they could say it like they saved her. But this guy, he just shot him in the head, and that dude fell over dead.
And
And
didn't
of course, then
hesitate.
John walks out like, "You shouldn't be scared. You did good."
Don't you mean yellow-eyed demon?
Yes, I know, but the fact that I truly believe John also would have said that.
It's pretty fucked up. I said that I was
Yeah.
like, okay, you killed someone, but go off, I guess. And then I was like,
Yeah.
wait, King, I forgot you're actually a demon. But I'm so glad you brought that up because it is such it's an imperative like moment. I feel like for Dina as a character to have come up with like to be able to like step back and look at himself and be like, damn, like I
Mhm.
really could do some fucked up shit for you guys. That's pretty fucked up. And that, Sam wants to comfort him and be like, don't feel bad. You had to do it. Like, you had no choice or whatever. And Dean's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I have no feelings about that. And that's actually what I'm fucked up
Yeah.
about.
That's the problem. I killed a dude and it
Didn't
sucked,
care.
but I also would do it again.
Yeah,
And that scares me. Like yeah,
I
that
love it.
is
It's a
so,
good
so
moment.
good.
It's a
Yeah, it's a
good
really good
moment.
moment.
It feels kind of quaint to like rate the wardrobe of this episode, but honestly, I want to say the costumes, their disguise was so incredible in this one. Like, I feel like
The firefighters.
yeah, even though it feels
Yeah.
silly to talk about, like it's still relevant. It's still
Well,
appropriate.
I was just really happy not to see them in like FBI suits or like
Yeah,
police.
it's so
I
boring.
that's a thing that they go to in the future, like
It's all
all
they
the
do.
time.
Exactly.
So I
It's so fun to
treasure,
see them play with
yeah,
different ideas.
I treasure these early seasons where they're like, okay, cool, we're Mounties, or we're
Mounties.
firefighters, or we're a couple on vacation going antiquing, or whatever. Like I I
A
treasure every
couple.
moment we get that's not FBI suits.
Me too. So our descriptors for wardrobe are horrendous, adorable, genuinely good, or terrible but great. What did you give this one?
Oh, geez. I'm gonna say genuinely good.
Me too. I really liked Sam's hair in this one. I don't know
Yeah,
why. It was floopy to one side. It was very cute. But the firefighter moment was so cool. I was just like,
I
that
liked it.
is badass, dude. And the fact that they turned the water on their back in holy water and they just sprayed the shit out of those demons. That was so fucking cool.
Oh, yeah, that was the one of the reasons I really like that firefighter thing was because they the way they set that scene up is you pull the fire alarm, you have 7 minutes before the authorities will get here. Okay,
Which they
great.
knew
So
off the top of their
they
head.
know that off the top of their head, which is competence porn, which I'm
Love
super
that. Yeah,
into.
you're super into
And
that.
and then you,
Yes,
you
I
said
do
you
know
said
that.
that so quickly.
Well, we've had that
I
conversation before.
know.
You're like, I really
Um,
like it when someone can do things and they're good at it.
I love it. But then it also sets up the trope of I'm gonna pull this, and then we have 7 minutes to do our heist, which is get in there,
Yeah.
find John, save him, and get out before the authorities come. So you think that that's what they're going for, but instead he pulls the fire alarm, and then they actively wait for the authorities to come and then use that as cover. And
I
I
l-
love that, so that it's just a tiny little subversion of the trope, but I love it so much and it's so smart.
Yeah, it was so good. And they looked cool. That was such
They
a cool
did.
thing.
They looked
Like,
really cool.
so genuinely good. I
Yeah.
chef's kiss. Mwah. Mwah.
Mwah.
Okay, so this is the last season one episode we're gonna rate on the Sam Girl friendly scale. We've got on a scale from 1 to 5, screen time, enjoyment for Sam girls or boys or people, Sam people, fans, that's what they're called, and hard eyes. I was like, what are we? Are we humans? Are we dancers? Hashtag the killers. This is the second time I've referenced the killers on this podcast. I'm not sorry. Anyways,
Uh, I'm an alien. I'll go with that.
okay, there you go.
Alien. Yeah. Or like a cat.
A cat alien.
Yeah. I'll do that.
I like that. Okay, so screen time.
Okay.
What do you think, Elle?
This is a lot of pressure because it's the finale.
I mean,
Um,
there's 15 seasons, so don't take it too
oh,
serious.
that's true. It's not that serious.
It'll be
It
okay.
is not that deep. Um, which one are we doing? Screen time.
Screen time.
So I am gonna give this one, what do we go to? 5?
Yes.
I'm gonna give it like a 4, I think.
That's exactly what I
Because
gave it.
is it? Is it?
Mhm. Exactly.
Because I felt like a lot of the like a lot of the deep stuff was John and Dean, but so many of the pivotal moments were Sam having to make a decision.
Yes.
And that was so important.
Yeah. And ultimately, it led up to the biggest moment where Sam essentially makes the call for all 3 Winchesters.
Yep.
No, I'm not going to shoot dad to finish our, hunt.
Yep. Yep.
And then I'm going to drive them to hospital.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
I'm not
I
gonna do
said
what you say. We're going
it's
to the hospital. Yeah. Yeah.
it's really solid like screen time for him. Like,
Yep.
and anytime we get to know more about Dean, I feel that impacts Sam so much. So I always feel really fed, despite if the screen time is spent learning more about the boys' dynamic, even if it's more focused on Dean, for some reason, I still always feel like that's really, I don't know. I always give it a higher score.
especially here in the earlier seasons.
Yeah, because you're always
Yeah.
learning about, the more Winchester lore.
More Winchester lore and filling the world and
Hmm.
having the world feel lived in. That
Hmm.
adds so much to enjoying Sam when he's on screen. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And let's do enjoyment. What did you score enjoyment for this episode?
So I enjoyed it a lot.
It.
It. Well, I, okay, so you know me. Sam gets beat up, so I'm in.
Yes.
Um, Sam dresses up like a fireman, so I'm in.
Hmm.
Sam has to make like these wrought emotional faces when he has to make these decisions about killing dad or standing up to dad. Okay, so I enjoy all that stuff a lot. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it like a 4.3.
Cool. I gave it another like straight across the board 4. I just thought it was really solid. It was a solid, good episode. And John was there, but he didn't hurt my feelings really this episode as much. So I didn't have to detract from my enjoyment score like I have before.
Uh,
And finally, Heart Eyes. This is going to be high for me.
I think this is gonna be high for me too. It's
Yeah.
it and for me, a lot of the hard eyes is again the firefighter uniforms.
Hmm.
And especially the last scene for me,
Yeah.
where he looks up into the mirror and he sees Dean like basically dying in the back seat, and he's like, "No, sir, not before everything."
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give it like a 4.5.
Cool. I gave it a 4.7. I'm just so obsessed with the firefighter thing. I love every time Sam is like strongly aligned with what he thinks is the right thing to do. And I love him in Bobby's house pouring over those books and then bringing books with him on the road to continue to pour over the books. I love
Oh,
him using the chalk to make sigils on the Impala, and he's just always got that brain working. I loved him getting his little like picking the lock on the firefighter. Like
oh,
every
that was so
single
good.
thing they did was he was so smart the whole time. He was so efficient. And he nailed it for me in this one. I was very
Absolutely.
in love.
And also, I wrote this down, but it wasn't important enough to bring up at the time, but it
Hmm.
definitely feeds into the score for me. Um, when the demon shows up at Bobby's, when
Hmm.
Meg shows up at Bobby's and they have to lead her to the Devil's Trap,
Yes.
Dean gets knocked out immediately. He gets thrown against the wall, knocked out immediately. Well,
I forgot.
knocked out in
Oh,
quotes. And
yeah.
Sam pushes Bobby behind him and stands in front of Bobby the whole time that they are leading
Yes.
Meg to the trap. And Bobby lets him. Bobby is not like
Yes.
fighting it. Bobby's
Yeah,
like,
he's got his hand like kind of on his shoulder too, like,
yeah,
no, like
okay,
I
I'll
made
hide.
a note of that too, and I totally forgot about it. I'm so glad you brought it up.
Yeah, that's definitely hard eyes for me.
100%. Yes, yes, that too.
That
That
too.
too. Okay, so I scored it overall a 4.23. You scored it a 4.26. So it's a
Oh my gosh.
4.245 essentially. I and we have officially officially rated this whole season.
Oh my gosh. Now, do we average all the ratings and give the
I don't
season
know.
average?
I think what I'm gonna do, I honestly we could, but I don't know. I might do that honestly. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make one of those graphs so that I'm gonna have every episode on the graph and you can kind of see the ratings,
Oh,
which
that's
will be
nice.
it'll
Yeah.
just be fun because I like infographics. And I'm gonna do a few other little things now that the season is over. But this is not the last episode for our podcast. We are going to
Nope.
do a special season 1 discussion with all my hosts and myself. Elle will be there, and we're going to talk about our each individual favorite like Sam moments of season 1. And so even though we're done with this season, we will have one more discussion to do before we take a break, and then As long as you guys want to hear us yap more, we'll do season 2 too.
Absolutely. I'll yap even if they don't want to hear it.
I always
Right.
want to hear you yap.
Oh,
You're one of my
we'll
favorite yappers.
we'll yap together. It'll be
We
great.
will. All right, bye everyone.
Right. Bye.